Welcome to Barbara's Bulletin. I'm your host, Barbara, and we're glad you're joining us today. We have a lot to cover, so let's dive right in. Today, we're focusing on a developing story that has sparked controversy and raised questions about immigration policies and international relations. You may have heard about the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran citizen who lived in Maryland and was deported by the Trump administration to a prison in El Salvador due to what's being described as an administrative error. Now let's break down the facts. Abrego Garcia entered the U.S. illegally, but an immigration judge ruled that he should not be deported back to El Salvador because he would likely face persecution. However, the Trump administration says it deported him because they claim he was a member of the MS-13 gang, which his lawyers deny. The situation took a turn when the Supreme Court ordered the U.S. government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return. But so far, that hasn't happened. The Salvadoran government, led by President Nayib Bukele, has refused to release him, calling the idea of his release preposterous. This case has sparked a lot of debate and criticism from both sides of the aisle. Some argue that the Trump administration's actions are an overreach of executive power and a violation of human rights, while others claim that it's a necessary step to ensure national security. Just yesterday, a group of House Democrats, including Representatives Robert Garcia, Maxwell Frost, Yasemin Ansari, and Mark Takano, arrived in El Salvador to demand Abrego Garcia's release and return. They're hoping to pressure the White House to abide by the Supreme Court's order and bring him back to the USA. We want to hear from you. What do you think about this situation? Should the U.S. government prioritize national security or human rights in cases like this? Share your thoughts with us on social media using the hashtag #Barbara'sBulletin. We'll continue to follow this story and provide updates as more information becomes available. In the meantime, we want to give you a comprehensive look at the issues surrounding immigration and international relations. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. I'm your host, Barbara. We're continuing our coverage of the latest developments in international news. And today we're focusing on a complex and intriguing story that's unfolding between El Salvador, Venezuela, and the United States. As you may be aware, there have been tensions rising between these countries over issues of migration, human rights, and diplomacy. Recently, El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele proposed a prisoner exchange with Venezuela, which has sparked a wave of reactions from various stakeholders. According to reports, President Bukele suggested sending 252 Venezuelans who were deported from the United States and are currently incarcerated in El Salvador back to Venezuela, in exchange for an equal number of political prisoners held by the Venezuelan government. The proposal has been met with criticism from Venezuela's chief prosecutor, Tarek William Saab, who accused El Salvador of unlawfully detaining the Venezuelans and demanded to know what crimes they were accused of. Now, it's essential to provide some context here. The United States has been deporting migrants from Venezuela, accusing them of being members of criminal gangs. However, lawyers and family members of the detainees have argued that these individuals have no ties to such groups. This issue has also caught the attention of human rights organizations, which claim that over 800 people are detained in Venezuela for political reasons. The situation is further complicated by the fact that the Venezuelan government denies holding any political prisoners, stating that those imprisoned have been convicted of crimes. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has been pushing for a tougher immigration policy, which has led to concerns about the treatment of migrants and the potential violation of international human rights law. As we explore this story, it's crucial to acknowledge the complexities and nuances involved. We must consider the perspectives of all parties, from the governments of El Salvador, Venezuela, and the United States, to the individuals affected by these policies, including the migrants themselves and their families. It's also worth noting that the U.S. Supreme Court has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from deporting another group of Venezuelan migrants accused of gang ties following an emergency request from the American Civil Liberties Union. This development adds another layer to the story, highlighting the ongoing debate about immigration policies and the role of the judiciary in shaping these decisions. As we continue to follow this story, we'll be keeping a close eye on any updates and developments. We'll also be examining the implications of these events for regional stability, human rights, and international relations. That's all for now. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. As we wrap up today's show, I'd like to take a moment to discuss a thought-provoking article that caught my attention. The piece, written by Stephen M. Walt, explores the challenges of rebuilding trust in the United States' relationships with other countries after the presidency of Donald Trump. According to Walt, the Trump administration's actions have damaged America's reputation for trustworthiness and competence, making it essential for future leaders to establish a disciplined and coherent policymaking process. He also emphasizes the importance of holding accountable those who have acted in ways that harm the country's interests. Walt suggests that appointing senior officials who are qualified and respected by their foreign counterparts can help restore confidence in U.S. judgment. Additionally, he argues that accountability is crucial in demonstrating to other nations that the United States has learned from its mistakes. It's worth noting that Walt's article presents a critical perspective on the Trump administration's policies and actions. However, it's also important to acknowledge that opinions on these matters tend to be highly polarized. As we strive for fairness and balance on this show, I encourage our listeners to consider multiple viewpoints and engage in respectful discussions. As we move forward, it will be interesting to see how the United States navigates its relationships with other countries and works to rebuild trust. Will the country's leaders prioritize accountability and transparency? Only time will tell. That's all for today's Barbara's Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged. That's all for today's Barbara's Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged.